We firmly believe that Black women are not only magical, but we are as invaluable and powerful as vibranium. Our podcast is dedicated to empowering Black and Brown women to embrace the transformative power of astrology and tarot. Through these intuitive arts, the Melanated Mystics will guide you to explore and connect with your deep inner magic and help you to finally release the burdens of Black Superwoman Syndrome. It's time to redirect our energies inward and prioritize ourselves on this transformative journey of self-discovery. Our topic today, and I hope everyone's excited about it, and really it's kind of the impetus and the reason we even decided we wanted to start doing this podcast. We could talk about this forever. We're going to try and keep it cute and tight to like 45 minutes. But our topic is Black women's magic. How it's inherent and natural to us, but we have a habit of giving it away. And it's not just a habit. It's like almost a syndrome.
It is a syndrome. It's an affliction. Yeah. The title, we wanted to talk about why Black women use their magic for everybody but themselves. And the reason I really like this topic and the title is that anybody who just heard that knows exactly what I'm talking about. Literally, when I was a child, and I remember watching The Color Purple for the first time, right? And I knew it right then. I was like, why is that woman giving up her life? There were several characters there, several examples of Black women's magic. Celie had this magic. Her sister had this magic, right? But I remember thinking, why are these women giving up their lives for this man or for this religion or for this way of being or for this situation, right? And it was just kind of a given, That's actually a great movie, a great example of just like, it's just a given, right? This is what is expected of her. And the woman who didn't give up her magic, Shug, right? My hero, right? Shug. She was vilified. She was the outcast. She was the harlot. She was all those things, right? Yeah. So I think that even from a young Black girl age, I knew that there was an expectation of me to use what I had for other people's gain. And I did not see any examples of media or even my life and my family life of women, Black women, who were keeping their magic for themselves. And so that's why we wanted to talk about this, because we're in an age, especially an astrological age, where we're kind of waking up to magic, period, especially the authentic, unique magic we have within ourselves. And as Black women, we need to know how to harness it and to channel it into us. And through channeling it into us, other people will be affected just by being in our electromagnetic field, but it has to come through us first. So, yeah.
Oh, I'm so excited for this topic because as you say that, and as you mentioned The Color Purple girl, you take me back in Black history. Immediately, little Black girl again at my grandma's house in southern Mississippi. And my grandmother was this very elegant lady and she liked film but they had to be good films, right? Like they had to be Oscar nominated. They had to be mostly serious. And Color Purple girl, when I tell you, I know every line of that movie. And just as you brought that up, I was thinking, oh my gosh, it is so true. Like we were literally taught, whether it's spoken verbally or not, or we just picked it up from the ether and from the culture and it's not just submitting and turning over everything to a husband. It's to our families, to a church, like to our children. Like it was almost as though we're not supposed to
our brothers.
Exactly. Especially if you got that older, if you're the oldest daughter. And I remember speaking about this with somebody else recently that like, don't we get to have our time ever? Like truly, because some of our parents truly feel like, oh, no, the rest of your life, it doesn't matter if you're in a partnership, doesn't matter if you're a mom, doesn't matter if you have a career, I should still be number one. And since we're making references, I'm going to reference the first time I ever saw what we're talking about, like how Black women, like we're just kind of expected to give away everything we have, all of our magic, whether it's our physical magic, whether it's the magic of our mind, our actual spirituality and our intuitive powers, was when I was on one of my favorite books, Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston, who herself was a hoodoo. I'll never forget the grandmother saying to Janie in the very beginning of the novel, like, the Black woman is the mule of the world. And I was like, what? Like, no, like, that what? Like in that, and I really thought about it in terms of what I saw, in terms of what my mothers gave, my aunts gave. And I remember thinking, yeah, that's on some bullshit, but I'm gonna keep that. I'm gonna keep that private. I'm gonna keep that secret. And I'm so glad we're talking about this now. Tarot was one of the things that helped me. Again, y'all hear me talk about this all the time. Start a conversation with myself about myself, and that is what we want so much for every single beautiful Black and brown woman listening.
Absolutely, absolutely. That was a word. Thank you. Mm-hmm. That's the thing, is that we are two people who have come to these, what I call esoteric arts, as a form of self-study. You know, I'm an astrologer. Halakyu is an amazing tarot reader. And we have found how we use the mediums to better our lives, but also our clients, you know, like being able to see, you know, I have clients that I've worked with for years now at this point, so consistently, like a monthly basis, you know, where being able to see how, you know, the self-study of themselves through their astrological chart has helped them make decisions in their life, but also has awakened them to their unique magic, you know, their unique self, that their blueprint, their birth tattoo, as I call it. So there is like, it's awakened me to my own, you know, and then starting to see how once you know your worth, once you know your unique blueprint and what you came here to do, it shows up in the world. You can see how you have this impact in the world. Now, Black women in particular already have magic, but now we have tools. Now we want to introduce you to these tools that you can use on a regular basis with your sisters or with yourself, with your family, right? And be that for your family. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't be the one that just goes to college and comes back and supports everybody and stuff. Yes, that's wonderful. Your money, your education, that's absolutely helping you, right? But let it come through you first, and let it be through osmosis is what I'm saying, right? Let that magic be through osmosis, and don't just be an ATM.
Another point I wanted to make, and I just wrote it down. First of all, I thought that was beautiful. Your birth tattoo, like that is so, that's so beautiful. Another goal I know that I have, and I feel pretty confident both of us have, is I want to destigmatize these tools. I feel like for a lot of us, especially if you came out of the South, if you came out of the quote unquote like Black church, there's so much stigma placed on something like astrology, which is crazy because it's in the Bible, or tarot and archetypes or crystals, because those are in the Bible. Crystals are literally in our body. Like, I'm so excited that we're I want you all to use this podcast too as like an act of rebellion. This is your act of we're breaking this down. These things are ancient. They're ancient. They're timeless, and I think they're perfectly suited to the self-exploration that I truly feel like Black women and girls are ready to undertake. There is no more. I truly, through tarot and through Carrie actually teaching me so much about my astrology and doing my readings. Also, I don't go to any other astrologer for my personal readings a year other than Carrie, but to help me understand myself, because how else can I be effective? How else can I be a loving mother? How else can I be a giving, contributing member to my community? Because I do a lot of kind of local, municipal kind of volunteering and work. If I don't understand who I am, if I don't understand who I am, what my gifts are, what some of my Achilles heels, might be, or some of my challenges, or when there's certain times during the year where, it might be a little hard for you to do this. So let's pivot towards either your physical health or your mothering or getting your body together. Like these things can help us. Our tarot can help us do that. Our astrology can help us do that. We're going to be destigmatizing. So also, if you're not a very outre person or very extroverted about what you do and what you're interested in, it's all right. This stuff is private too.
Absolutely.
It's really nobody's business, and consider it your own form of revolution and rebellion, getting to know yourself through these modalities.
Absolutely. I'm glad you talked about wanting to destigmatize this too, because I think that that's actually been part of the conditioning for Black women, is to be like, don't look at that stuff. How many times you've been taught, like, pray things away, right? And instead of, so I think there's actually been a campaign for Black women in particular to stigmatize these things so that we're not aware. of our own tools and our own magic, or it's been vilified. Like both sides of my family come from the South, come from Louisiana. And I know that there are, practitioners in my family and they are vilified, or it was like, well, we don't talk about such and such, right? Where is that coming from? And so what I grew up with was that, you don't want to talk about those things, It wasn't until I really needed astrology astrology came to me, and it came through mysterious ways. And so you'll start to notice how these things show up in mysterious ways. They're not planned, right? So I came to astrology through like a therapist that I was seeing because I was like having a spiritual awakening that I thought was my life falling apart. It was like, what do you mean I can't work 60, 80 hours a week? Something must be wrong, right?
Mm-hmm,
Get me back on track, therapist, and the therapist is like, here's your astrology chart. By the way, I'm an astrologer as well. And this is why you're going through what you're going through. And it's not a mistake. It's amazing to have someone be able to tell you that, right? Yeah. And that's why I wanted to do that for other people. Astrology and tarot, these are just two modalities. There are so many. And as we go on with our future episodes, we're going to be inviting people who have other modalities that we're not experts in, or that are going to be introducing us to things like Akashic records and human design and all of these, other amazing things that have been around forever and are your birthright, right? So let's just take the stigma out of this right now. It's here. Crystals belong to the earth. Guess what? So do you. There is a natural relationship here, and you should take advantage of it.
It's fun.
Yes.
It's fun.
Yes.
It really is.
Go ahead.
I know there are a lot of stereotypes about like Leo and the Leo personality, but like learning about myself, like what these things are is so much fun. Tarot is fun. These things are not some sort of Damocles. They're not like hanging over your head, like, oh no. Even the cards that, are about change, rapid change, sudden change that you can't help, that's like coming, or endings. They can be fun. They mean different things. They can be so very personal. They can refer to so many different things. And no matter what the feelings are, we know that a lot of the work that we have to do with Black women, because maybe we haven't had the best examples or we haven't been able to afford mental health care, right. is being able to handle our emotions, riding the waves of them. I find that not only is it fun, not only do I get to, I get to laugh sometimes at the serendipities, but they're interesting. Like their cards are different. Like I collect, like when I was a kid, nobody had time or money to be interested in me and my collections, but no, my tarot is my collection, and it's a part of the legacy.
It sounds like somebody said that to you. I don't got time or money to be interested in your tarot.
You heard how I felt that for my soul, for my spirit.
Somebody said that to you. Yes,
exactly. That's another way to ancestors speak. Literally, we can say these traumatic. It's exactly the way we first heard them. But they're fun. So this isn't like so serious or like not that it's not serious, but it's fun. It's interesting, and it's okay.
Serious can be fun.
Yes, it's okay for us to take a real focused interest in ourselves through these two modalities.
You said it right there. It's okay for Black women to take a real and focused interest in ourselves, because that's something that we've been shamed for. I mentioned earlier, just really quick, about the relationship to Black men and to our brothers. And, there was a saying when I was younger that Black women love their sons and raise their daughters. And it's not around too much anymore. I haven't heard it in a long time, but just understanding that, even because I have two older brothers, and I was, the youngest. I was the youngest of my family for a long time until my younger brother came along. But like this idea that I have a duty as soon as I wake up in the morning, because my brothers have so much to contend with being Black men in the world, and this kind of idea that I don't as a Black woman, but that I was literally built to be a support system. That may be the case, right? We are built to be support systems for each other, men and women, right? Mm-hmm. And everything, and people, period, right? But there is a stigma, there is a celebration of men to do the self-study, to do the hero's journey, to do the walkabout. There's a villainization of Black women to do the same, right? Mm-hmm. And so, we talked about Shugabru, we talked about, Zora Neale Hurston, we talked about these are the women that did the walkabout, that did the self-study, that did and found themselves, and that they were vilified for it. So Here's how, I just wanted to bring that up really quickly, that's also something that needs to wash away. And as somebody who has, carried that for a long time about you're the strongest one just because you're female, they're going to go through some stuff and you got to support it. Start with yourself, honey, and you will get to everybody else. Don't worry. Okay.
This is where, and you mentioned shame earlier, and I'm really going to be quiet and let you move us on in the discussion, but I just wanted to put it here. I used to feel really shamed when I was younger and like say I had some massive crush or infatuation the way teenage girls do. And I ran very hot, like the older ladies would say, like hot in the pants. But I remember my mother saying, what love? Like, what are you talking about? Like, love yourself first. You need to love yourself. Or whenever any woman was like going through something, there would be this kind of nasty, judgmental way, like the ladies at a church or the aunties would say, love starts with yourself. And I remember thinking as I got older, but y'all didn't teach us how to love ourselves. Y'all just said that. And we were supposed to figure it out on our own without giving us any kind of rubric, without giving us any kind of textbook, without like not even a textbook or talking us through it. Baby, this is what this is. This is what self-love and self-care is. And it's taking an interest in yourself. It's taking care of yourself, your mind, your body, your spirit. And this is where we start removing the shame. Like this is a way to do it. This is a way to pour love and care on yourself and requiring no one else to do it except you 15, 20 minutes checking in with your stars, checking in with your cards a couple of times a week to help you, to give you examples, to maybe give you a path. So I just want to say that.
Thank you for that. And this by no means that men can't use astrology and men can't use, tarot cards. I have several male clients, right, who are totally indoctrinated into this. Okay. So this podcast is about Black women using this innate magic and using these tools. But it doesn't mean that, I think self-study is important for every human being on the planet, however you identify. And so this is specifically about us removing this stigmatization of Black women for doing what everybody is meant to do, everybody's birthright. So yeah, I'm glad that you
heal everybody. Like, I don't know, Carrie, on my walk, if there's one thing I've learned, I can't do it for my husband. For my children, I'm mom and I'm nurturer. I hope I'm always softly to fall. But when it comes to men, all men, and men got their own stuff they have to reckon with.
Really
and can't nobody do it for them but them. That is if I've learned anything from my mental health care and my spiritual walk, is that.
I agree with you completely. And something that I've even had to learn recently, one, you can't save somebody else, right? But that your presence can. And being completely self-possessed and fully embodied in who you are, that is what's going to heal other people. That's what's going to heal your man. That's what's going to heal your relationship. So look at it like that. If I do anything, get myself together, all right? And then I can heal everybody, we can all do that for each other, but it really is an inside job. All right,
it reminds me of a tarot card. I'm going to bring it up later.
Do it.
It's called the Six of Swords. It is such a beautiful card.
Okay.
You saying that and us needing to take the lead and like take the role. There's a card and I remember it's called the Six of Swords. And just to give you all, for those of you that are not watching us in the world of YouTube or on TikTok, the Six of Swords kind of shows, I kind of call it the card of the refugee. It shows a small, like a canoe or a rowboat. And there's a man, his back is facing us. He's leaving turbulent waters behind and he's rowing this kind of shrouded, obviously looking tired, fatigued woman and child. And there's a desolate, like not really beautiful or any kind of paradise in the forefront. But, and generally sometimes what the Six of Swords means is, sometimes the best way to get out of this awful situation, especially if it's mental, is to move forward, to leave turbulent. Like you may not even know where you're going, but what you have to do is leave. And what I'll never forget when I realized when my family was going through a tough time, I have teenage girls were, they're into these sports. It takes up so much time. Here it is. And I will never forget when I realized, I'm not the woman huddling the child waiting to be rowed. I'm the one steering the ship. When it comes to the emotional and the mental health of this family, that's me. I'm the leader. And it was time for me to put on my big girl pants and to assume that position. And I knew I could do it because I understood who I am, and tarot and astrology helped me do it. I felt like, oh, right. Because I kind of gave all that power and, to my partner. And I'll never forget when I realized, oh, yeah, no, okay. Yeah, I'm the one rowing the ship. And I remember that anytime
fourth house.
Yes, like anytime we're having a tough time, I'm like, all right, I'm steering the ship. Like there are many ways my husband takes leadership, but this is where I lead. So I just had to say that. Like, oh, girl, I hope I don't use up all our time. Like my little asides.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I want us to go into our personal astrological and tarot signatures, right? And then 2, I want to talk a little bit about astrology and the different houses and how they can help us go into self-study because they can show us where we need to lead, which areas of life we need to lead, and which areas we go into our masculine, which areas we go into our feminine, which areas we're neutral, which areas that we put our energy into, which areas we don't, and let, attract things to us, right? Because that's the self-study. So you just did a perfect example of that, like in this house, Halakyu, for those who don't know or who are into astrology, Halakyu has her sun in Leo in the 4th house. The sun is literally the planet. It's not a planet, it's a star. It's the star of our known universe. So it's meant to shine. It's meant to illuminate. It's meant to give light. It's meant to give warmth, and it's meant to lead, right? Because if our sun is gone, the rest of us, that's what keeps us in orbit. Okay, that's what gives us this gravitational pull. All these planets, all these lovely planets out there hanging out together, it'll just crash and burn. Okay, so we need the sun, and we need the sun to perform. Again, you were talking earlier about feeling shame about performing or showing up in this way. It's like, no, girl, we're both Leos, right? Yeah. The point is for us to shine, illuminate, because we are meant to bring the spotlight. The sun's got one job, and it doesn't even know it's a star, right? Mm-hmm. So this is why it's so important as Leos to understand this archetype and not, let other people give us a bad rap. Now, your sun is in Leo, but is in the 4th house. The 4th house represents the home environment, the maternal energy. And so things like real estate, property, any nesting, the creation, gestation, all those things, right? Productivity. Even if it isn't the creation of a child, the creation of an idea even, right? So when we're talking about the sun in there, that means, yes, in this house, I lead. In this house, I lead. Now, maybe I'll go out of Costco. Maybe I don't lead at Costco, right? Go outside, do some other stuff. I don't lead there, right? Yeah. But in this house, I lead. That's sun in 4th house. So as you start to get into your astrology and start to understand, no, I'm meant to be right here. Society will teach you all kinds of things about how you're supposed to be, but your astrology chart will never lead you wrong. It will tell you exactly who you are. That's a perfect example right there.
The last 2 years since I've launched my, my tarot business, doing corporate events and private readings and all that, nothing has been more helpful to me than Carrie helping me through my astrology figure out who I am, where I'm meant to go, and like what the strengths are, things that I can, depend upon. And I'll never forget you saying like, oh my God, you're really living your chart. Like y'all, and I'm still a normal person. I still live here on Earth, like I still go to the grocery store. So this isn't to let y'all think that this is the, it's got to be the be all end all, but good grief, it has been helpful. My astrology and my human design, no two things have been more helpful to me. Carrie, can I share a card that reminds me of you? And I always think there are 2 cards. The Chariot is one, but the one that I love the most and I think is most relevant to our opening conversation that I really think of when I think of Carrie is the Star card. This is card number 17. And I love this card so much because I love the way Carrie talks about how the stars, your astrology, this is, when she was kind of explaining my natal chart to me, this is the picture of the sky when you were born. And I love the star so much. It's part of the major arcana, which is the first 22 cards of the tarot deck. And I also think of this card as like the card of like liberation, like the runaway slave. For those of us that have gone through any kind of dark night of the soul, and I say that about the runaway slave because slaves ran away under the cover of night, sometimes under the full moon, following the North Star to freedom. So it's a reason I love this card and the figure. This card's associated with Aquarius, and the figure. This is a really beautiful figure too from the African Tazama Tarot, which is my personal deck that I always keep on my my desk. But the figure is kneeling and they're naked. They're vulnerable. They have one foot in the water, right? Which represents the spirit, emotions connecting to the element water, spirituality. They also have a knee and foot on terra firma, right? Which to me represents more of earth energy, pentacles energy. And they're pouring water. And I love that the figure is vulnerable. And I think of this and I associate this with Carrie because of that beautiful way you said that, the picture of the sky when you were born, because of course we see a night sky and the star, but also how not only the cards and our astrology, those are the two worlds that we're straddling, this magical, beautiful, Carrie calls it the esoteric arts, I call it the intuitive arts, that help us be more effective, happy, create the reality that we want in the real world. So if I ever read for Carrie, and I read a lot, even when we're having conversations and we're planning, I'm like, okay, where should we go? Okay, there. That's what we should do. That's one that I associate with you and how you helped me through that first reading begin to understand, be curious about my astrology when I'm going through different transits in order to help me come out of what really was a dark night of the soul for me. And to come out cleansed, refreshed, whole, and so supported, knowing that I was not only supported by the divine, but by the spirits of the earth, my history, my heritage, my ancestors, to live a prosperous, abundant life, and mostly also to eliminate shame about it, and to eliminate the shame of having a lot, like being a prosperous person, being an abundant person, being a talented person. In a lot of ways, a gifted person, a lot of ways, a flawed, traumatized person.
We all, yeah.
Yeah, you helped me so much with that.
I'll receive all of that. I'll receive all of it and give it back. Oh my goodness. Thank you.
You're welcome.
What I wanted to go into is, the name of the episode is Why Black Women Have Used Their Magic for Everyone But Themselves. And I mentioned very briefly about having a moment in my life where I broke down and I had to start searching. And that's when I found astrology, or rather astrology found me. Okay. There are astrological transits in your chart that tell you when these moments could be occurring. So we want everyone who's listening to look at their charts and take a look at it. And if you don't know what you're looking at, book a reading with an astrologer. I'm happy to help. Book a reading with Halakut and Tarot, like get into these esoteric cards and get, the same signatures can be found in Tarot. Astrology is just using planets and stuff. Tarot's using elements and all of these other different things. So we're trying to show you that you can use multiple models, right? And you should be using all of them. Like, Halakut's my Tarot reader, I'm her astrologer, this is my thing, right? So I'm a Leo. I like pretty things. I'm a Leo Libra rising on top of that shit. Okay. So I'm just like, if it's pretty, give it to me. Right. So I don't even know what the card's saying to me. It's just like, oh, this is cute. So let's talk about astrological signatures. I'm going to give you two that, these are things like you go to an astrology reader. They'll be like, oh, you're having that. That's what that means. Right. So Halakut mentioned Dark Night of the Soul. This is usually the moment. Mother Teresa wrote about Dark Night of the Soul. A lot of historical figures, especially religious historical figures, wrote about Dark Night of the Soul. It is a part of life. And there are some of us, especially Black women. This is almost a guarantee, to be honest. If you're a Black woman, you'll be going through one of these, if not more. Okay. And what it is a purification. The Dark Night of the Soul is when the soul meets itself. We cannot change if we are not willing to become conscious of who we are in the first place, right? We cannot purify and move on to the next version, the next evolution of ourselves. So we need those dark nights of the soul. What dark nights of the souls really do is just show us ourselves. And if we don't like who we've been, they can be painful, okay? They also strip us of the things that have been keeping us from who we actually are. And that can be a painful process as well, right? So when you're having a dark night of the soul, most likely you have some planets going through your 8th house. The 8th house is the house of Scorpio. And Scorpio is all about shadows, and shadow work is a word that's thrown around a lot lately. And I have clients that come to me like, I need help with my shadows. And I'm like, girl, that's an ongoing thing. That's not just like this time, right? But a dark night of the soul is when a planet or a north node, which is your soul purpose, is traversing through the eighth house. And I've seen this, I've worked with clients multiple times through it. If it's a north node, it's usually an 18-month process, roughly. Okay. But you can also have Mars going through your eighth house, which is like anger and aggression going through that eighth house. You could have Lilith for sure going through your eighth house, and that's an asteroid. Lilith will knock up that eighth house and you'll be rebelling left and right. And this usually says you had a family lineage of persecution. So the eighth house is usually our shadow work house, right? But most likely if you have a north node going through the eighth house, that's that dark night of the soul. This is when you would probably start coming to tarot, start going to astrology, start going to shamans, start going to using this stuff. And then another signature, everybody I hope has heard of this, Saturn return, right? When Saturn returns to the original placement that it was at the moment that you were born, the original house and the original sign, that means the Saturn has returned to its original place. Saturn represents challenges, obstacles, delays, and also mastery, right? So it's like going through school. You know, you are getting all of the tests that you need, all of the homework that you need. You're seeing everybody get ahead in life besides you. Okay.
I was like, you're saying that in such a nice way.
Right. Everybody. You just be like, really? Right? 2.5 years. Okay. I'm very direct about these things. 2.5 years, you're going to be in that particular classroom. Okay. But by the end of it, you get your degree. And the first Saturn return happens around 27, 28, but can be as late as 33 years old. And then we have it again around 52, 53, 54. Hopefully you've learned some things by then. You know, and it doesn't knock you over the head like it does when you're in your 20s. But that is also a signature. So if you see Saturn going through that original house where it was when you were born, where your natal Saturn is, you see it transiting through there, that's a Saturn return. That's also a great time to get interested in astrology. And then for that dark night of the soul, if you have something, your north node going through that eighth house, those are the two great signatures. But there's never a bad time to get interested in astrology, especially right now because we're in a new age, the age of Aquarius. And so this is the age where we're meant to evolve and use these tools in the first place.
As you educate us and inspire us, whether or not you're going through those transits right now or you see them, you identify them, it's time to get in. It's a good time to begin. I can't help but think about when I turned to tarot. It was not mystical and magical. This was not a tradition that people in my family were like strivers. I'm the third generation to go to college from Mississippi. Like freedom, protection was to be found in your education, your profession, you know, like your profession, how much you gave to the church, like how much you gave to community service. So none of this I was not given some deck or something. I claim hoodoo is like my spirituality, my tradition, but like a lot of spiritualists and hoodoos, I grew up in the Black church in the American South. And that first real dark night of the soul, it's kind of a shame because I was newly married, like literally 8 or 9 months out of college. My husband and I were like college sweethearts. We met freshman year. We started dating seriously sophomore year. We got married immediately after college, and he was picking me up from a movie. I was hanging out in Barnes & Noble, which at that time in the 90s was like this, this is wonderful, amazing.
It's this big spot, yeah,
this big barn bookstore. And I was feeling so much confusion, so much despair. I had this job that was much bigger than I should have had because I do like to perform. I'm great in an interview. I was all of a sudden a manager at 24 of like programs, like 20 people. I was the world's worst manager. And I was starting to realize, I'm talented. I'm great in a boardroom. I'm great presenting. I'm great dreaming up things. But you know, spreadsheets, budgets, all of that, managing people, I was not yet ready for it. I was having my first real challenges with my marriage. I married a man from way outside of my culture. I was living in New England, which I did not like. It was cold. And when I found that tarot deck, I was just wandering. I literally wandered over to games or whatever, like trying to cheer myself up, trying to see or find something that would make me feel better. And I found the New Orleans Voodoo Tarot. It was like $38, which was a lot of money for us back then. But I knew I'd always had a love affair with New Orleans. I'd always had a love affair with the occult. I always knew there was something about African traditional religions that resonated with me, especially as a dancer. And that's when I found that deck. and my tarot practice was private. Like, I did not tell anybody. As far as I was concerned, this was like a deep secret. I felt very alone. I was far away from my family in Mississippi. It was a bit of a break because my family didn't really support the marriage. I had this job that I was away. I just, I talked a big game, but I really was not prepared for all of the responsibility. I was living in a place I did not like. It was New England. It was cold. I hated it. It was not warm. It was not any way, place, or people that resonated with me. But of course, I had a lot of pride, and I didn't want to tell anybody, that I didn't know what I was doing. But truly, that's when I was really frightened. And I picked up that deck because, first of all, it resonated with me. I was very interested in African traditional religions and practices. I'd always had a love affair with New Orleans. And I knew that it was right for me. I didn't know anything. I had to literally just look at the book, and I had a little journal, and I would just, practice like learning the cards one by one. But I picked up that deck because I was in pain and I was looking for answers. And I'm so grateful, even though it took me a long time to get to where I am right now, tarot played a huge part in that for me. I saw myself represented in different cards. Each card, 78 cards, regardless of what you think about intuition, spirituality, like peeking around the corner, divining, like the occult, the metaphysical, like take that part out of it. One of the reasons like Jungian psychologists like study and like use the tarot is because each of those 78 cards represents something about the human experience, about our human walk, like the spiritual, the emotional, the physical, the tangible and the intangible. And every time you pull a card, think about it, meditate on it, study it, try to think about like, what are these symbols? What does this mean to me, my culture, my tradition? It's a way to focus on and pinpoint one part of your experience and give it the time and energy it deserves. And I strongly suggest, I'm just going to say this right out the box, I want all y'all to have a deck. You can get literally, I know Amazon, my sister calls it the Scarlet A is the devil or whatever. But, like Bezos can get you a tarot deck in 24 hours, and it can get you one for you can probably get one for under $10. I really just want to encourage you to look for yourself. Because that's what I did. I put all the images out and I looked for myself. I looked for what resonated with me. I really want to encourage you to, when you get started, if this is the start of your journey of starting to use this tool, focus on yourself. Do not waste it. The whole topic of the episode is why we give away our magic for everybody else. So when you get this new deck, or when you uncover it, or you found the one that somebody gave you, I would like for us to have an agreement. I really want to invite you to focus it on yourself and don't overwhelm yourself and look for yourself. That's the first thing I did. And one of the first cards I pulled up was the High Priestess. I'll have many times and many opportunities to talk about this card. There's a lot of High Priestesses out there. I'm always like a little startled when I'm reading for somebody and the High Priestess comes up. My first question is, oh God, I wonder if they're ready for their talent. I wonder if they're ready to understand and to start thinking about their power and the power of our intuition. So if you're looking for a card, if you can't find yourself, or you get this deck and you're like, I don't know what the hell he's talking about, I can't find myself, go to the High Priestess and take a look. This is about intuition, deep esoteric knowledge, connecting to natural cycles, and about our training, our discipline. Priestesses don't just become disciplined, it's work. Like Carrie's even opened us up talking about how with men, there's some things kind of set up, like the walk, like becoming a warrior, being out in the woods by yourself, traveling, like even if you were brought up in like Edwardian England, like you take the grand tour to like sow your oats and put your education in perspective. If you can't find that archetype or that icon, go to the High Priestess, because if y'all are listening, it probably means you got some real potential, like using one of these two modalities. And again, there's nobody else in this card or this picture. It's her and her relationship to the moon. She's holding a book. People say it says different things. Like, is it saying the Torah? Is it saying tarot? But it's being held near the pelvic bowl. This is about deep esoteric knowledge and feminine knowledge, whatever your interpretation of feminine is. And so that's how I came to it. And that's what I would encourage you to do first. Like, look for yourself, focus on yourself. And if you can't find yourself, pick up the High Priestess.
I like that. If you can't find yourself, just be a High Priestess.
Yeah, be her.
Just do that.
Because you probably are.
So I think that I appreciate you. I like you.
I appreciate you.
I'm so excited to be doing this with you because I just think we both have a lot of talent in this area and a lot to give and a deep desire to serve. And so I'm really excited to to have this come into fruition. We have much to share in future episodes. This was kind of the introduction to us and what it is that we wanted to give to you.
Thank you to my beautiful co-host and colleague and co-creatrix. This is Astrology and Tarot for and by Black women. You belong here. Any of you are not part of that group, have fun, hang out. I promise you, we got lots of gems we're dropping. But if ever anything was created for you as a Black woman or a Black girl, it is this, your magic. So let's get together and hang out. And it is okay to focus your magic on yourself. That's your that's your assignment. Carrie and I are thinking about like heart work. Heart work. Like, what do we want to leave you with? So how about a little heart work? Oh, I'll pull a card. So as you begin this journey.
No.
I actually have tears in my, oh God, don't cry. All right. Maybe it's good we started with something kind of like a little, a little scary. I cry because the Three of Swords is one of the, it's a card that when people see it, like, oh no, what has happened? But to me, and this is what happens when you're a woman of my age and experience, the Three of Swords is the only card that presents itself. In itself, it's in reverse. This is about, there's a lot of us clearly out there that are maybe in that dark night of the soul, or something has happened. There has been a betrayal. There has been deception. There have been lies. There is some deep wound. If we've been in long relationships, it's impossible to be in a long relationships where we have not dealt with the Three of Swords. Some of us think that we've gotten past whatever the Three of Swords was in our relationship, and you never have. You never have. Our heart work is to literally, if only you can place your hand on your heart, our job is to reverse this card, to unclench, to loosen, so that these swords fall out. Like, that is the job. Acknowledge it. If there is heartbreak, if there has been treachery, betrayal, because that's normally what this card represents. And this is what it tells me about the collective. That's why I felt like I cried, because I'm like, oh, we hurting.
Yes.
We are hurting out here. Someone has deeply, deeply, deeply hurt us. Sometimes it's macro. Sometimes it's not even a person. Sometimes it's the culture. There have been times when I've definitely felt betrayed by, we say sometimes it's your own people. Sometimes it's even the culture. It's the expectations. It can be the patriarchy. So a lot of us are in pain. Our job is to turn this upside down. And if you remember nothing else, especially if this is triggering you or taking you back to something, to massage the heart. Massage it, listen to something. And maybe our journal question is, what deep and profound hurt am I ready to release? Am I ready to heal from? Am I ready to let go of? Because I promise you, studying your astrology and your tarot can help you. So I got chills. I'm a little upset, but that is our goal. That is our job. That's what the tarot contributes to our heart work. Carrie, what do you think as we say goodbye?
I'm writing it down. First of all, I'm deep in study right now. I'm deep listening to the teacher right now. So hold on a second. Heartwork. Are we ready to release right now?
Yeah. What are we ready to release? Journal it, y'all. Journal it out. Speak it. Scream about it. Go into your car. Think about what it is. I gave you the stank face right there. Yeah. I was like, how you listen to some good music and you're like, Whitney said, because it stank.
That's why I was like, ooh, stank face. You're just like, oh. Like that hurt, but do it again, that kind of thing. Yes. What deep and profound hurt are we ready to release right now? Ooh.
Girl, that passed through me like a pulse. Like, we'll talk about clairs and stuff later. Like, our gifts present themselves, but between my neurodiversity and the intuitive gifts, like, when I tell you that just...
Yes.
I just
the body talks to you too. And that's something interesting, because, we use these tools, we use astrology, we use tarot, but our body is also a tool, right? And so when you get hit like that, being present with yourself through self-study allows you to listen to all. You'll find all kinds of gifts start showing up. And one of them is the body. So if you get a stank face, that's for a reason. All right. God, thank you. Goodness.
For hanging out with us.
Thanks for hanging out with us. Excited for these next episodes coming up. And we're going to get into it. So
bye, y'all.